Yes, yes, yes. Greetings and love, all the listeners of the Real Roots Radio StereoItes show, live and direct, like every Saturday out of Sicily. Starting with the Jajalan Dub. Works of the King Tabby meeting Jacob Killamilla, and today is a very, very special episode as I have here with me our friend and guest coming back once again, Matyas Tekle Selassie. Welcome, brother.
Good thanks, Isis. Blessed love to each and every one. Give thanks unto the King of Kings. Give thanks unto the high brethren. Very happy to be here among you, among I and I. And give thanks for the opportunity. Blessed love.
Same way. Great pleasure. And we take the opportunity of having you here to touch an important subject today, as we have anticipated on the social media. We will be talking about a very historical and very important moment in the history of both this country. We are broadcasting from Italy and, of course, Africa and Ethiopia, more in particular, the invasion of Ethiopia at the hands of the fascist regime. Why right in this time and period of the year, brother?
For 19 February, that is the 12 Yekatit in Ethiopian calendar. That is, the date of commemoration of the Ethiopian martyrs that has been established by His Imperial Majesty. So it should be compulsory to remember this day for all Rasta people, and we will do that.
So we do take the opportunity to talk about this. And we will be listening to some great music as usual. Africa at the center of this episode of StereoItes show on the Real Roots Radio. Once again, greetings and welcome once locked in, locked on from every part of the world. Bear with me, next rhythm track. As I said, we will be listening to great music. We will be talking about important stuff. History. We take the time to mix both sound and power, but words as well. It's really important to know what's around this culture, what's around this music, what inspired this music and still inspires it. Place called Africa, Winston Prince.
Why love must be free wherever you be? You ask your question, this is your answer.
There's a place called Africa, far, far away.
Blessed is the land that is so grand, for I and I can stretch forth to hand to one another. For your sons and daughters of one father, from the great place called Africa.
Mama says this where I'm from, and I know she can't be wrong. Take me back to Africa, Mama, how did I get here?
Ram Ram's not your wunte. This is African Ubuntu. Forward on the scene to let man and man be real key. So man and man will be free wherever he be. No more chains, I tell you.
We had to work and slave each day. The boss, he took a pay. But a brighter sun has dawned today, and they can stop us, come what may. A time shall come for you and I. She bowed her head and cried.
Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit earth. Blessed are the righteous, for they shall obtain righteousness. They that put their trust in Jah shall be as Mount Zion, which can't be removed but abided forever. So the mountains are round about Jerusalem. So is Jah around about the sons and daughters forever and ever till in dread.
There's a place called Africa, far, far away.
I heart desire and pray to Jah for Israel, is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Jah, but not according to knowledge. For they've been ignorant of Jah righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness. They have not submit themselves unto the righteousness of Jah. Give ears unto our words, O Jah. Consider our meditation. Hearken to the voice if I cry, I King and I God. For unto thee would I pray forever and ever, seal him dread. Ever dread, ever dread, ever dread. Ever dread, ever dread, ever dread.
All right. Intro done, salutations done. We have anticipated we will be talking about the invasion of Ethiopia at the hands of Italy and the Italian fascist regime. Like we said, really important subject, not only from the historic point of view, but from the social point of view, and with repercussions worldwide. So please, Breda, let's stop wasting time. Let's go straight to the point. Let's start talking about the subject.
Well, the first thing I would like to say is that this is the specific responsibility of Rasta people in Italy. I could say all the people that is related to some way to reggae music should remember this day, should know very well these facts and speak about them. And you see, this is a matter, a very serious, dramatic matter, so there's no space for commercialization, and it reminds us that the price of freedom is blood, and very few people, they dare to speak and treat these matters, and we are concentrated on this seriousness indeed. For there are a lot of people speaking about vanity and unuseful things. And you see, during fascism, Mussolini, one of the worst deeds of Mussolini was realized when he invaded Ethiopia in 1935. On 3rd of October, they invaded Ethiopian borders without declaring war, considering thus the Ethiopian people like animals without dignity. They practiced a lot of forbidden means of war, a lot of barbarous means, and we will speak in detail about these things.
War is ugly as usual, and this was the beginning of a very important historical situation for Ethiopia that required an important struggle for freedom. We have been talking in many of the previous episodes, many of the repercussions worldwide. We have been talking, of course, about the lyrics in the song War, which we will definitely be listening to. Loads of atrocity, of course. What was the actual reason for the invasion, Breda? Because, like you said, unprovoked, without declaring war, so starting in a very confused and aggressive manner, more aggressive than war can be by itself. But what was the main reason that pushed the Italian army at that time to go all the way to Africa and invade Ethiopia?
Indeed, there are several reasons for that. We should consider that the Italian invasion of Ethiopia is the last chapter of the colonial process. We can say that is the apex of the colonial invasion of Africa. We should remember that Ethiopia was the only free independent state in Africa at that time. And Italy tried to invade Ethiopia for the first time at the end of the 19th century with the battle. You see that it is the war that brought to the Battle of Adwa. Emperor Menelik II defeated the Italians in Adwa, and for that time he was successful to stop them, but they returned again to vindicate, to gain their revenge against the Ethiopian 40 years after that time. And you see, Ethiopia is, we could say that is the richest place in Africa indeed. A lot of people in Italy, especially the historians, they insist saying that Ethiopia was very poor, that there was no actual interest, material interest or profit in invading Ethiopia. But no, we should think that Ethiopia is full of natural resources. Ethiopia is the source of Nile. Ethiopia is an immense territory that could be exploited by Italian people, that has been exploited in the 5 years of occupation by the Italian people. And also, you know, there's even a spiritual, cultural reason for, you see, Mussolini wanted to found again the Roman Empire. He wanted to restore the Roman Empire, so he had to conquer an empire to gain a crown, an imperial crown for the King of Italy. And so it was very useful for the Italian rhetorical power of that time.
But yet again, they did fail in their intentions, in their objectives, in their mission, and that was mainly, well, pretty much solely thanks to the freedom fighters of Ethiopia. We can say the first partisans as well. That's where the fight against fascism started. There were real confrontations for the first time.
Yeah, true, and it was a very there was a very different state of equipment between the two armies. We should consider that Ethiopians were barefoot with medieval arms against people that were an army that was the Italian army that was deeply mechanized and modernly equipped. And so you see, it was the highest manifestation of honor and courage of that time, and we could even consider it like the beginning of the Second World War, the World War II. For that was the time when Ethiopia was recognized as a free state at the time. So it was the first infringement of the international rights of a foreign state, and by virtue of that time, of that event, Italy developed a general aggressivity against all the nations of the world, the so-called League of Nations. At that time, Mussolini left the League of Nations and went too close to the position, the strategical and political position of Hitler. So we say also that Ethiopian War was the beginning of the strategic alliance between Hitler and Mussolini. Then it prepared actually the dynamics of the World War II.
Loads to learn, loads to talk about. We will do our best to sum it up all, to squeeze it into the next couple of hours we're going to spend together on the Real Roots Radio. This is StereoItes show, live and direct from Sicily. Welcome each and every one. And the next rhythm track dedicated to all the freedom fighters, the Ethiopian freedom fighters, and all the people who fight every day for freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom everywhere. Freedom fighters, Anthony B.
Let Jah arise and all heathens scatter. Let them that hate the Most High flee and batter. What we say? Run for cover, run for cover. Rebels taking over right now, taking over. Hell yes, run for cover, run for cover. Rebels taking over right now, taking over. 'Cause I'm a freedom, freedom, freedom. Freedom fighter, yeah. Freedom fighter. Rastaman, we are freedom, 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 freedom. Freedom fighter, yeah. Freedom fighter. How we not back down? Forever man a fight till everyone in the dark world see the light. So everyone is equal in the Most High sight. It no matter if you're black, you're pink, purple or white. Come make we unite and go burn parasite. Upliftment to a higher height. Haile Emmanuel who are the black Christ, and Tekle Selassie I give life. So Rastaman never sit down, never beg, 'cause we never want. Freedom song, well that we chant. Anytime we need food, the earth we plant. Now have no time for live on. 'Cause I'm a freedom, 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 freedom. Freedom fighter, yeah. Freedom fighter. Rastaman a freedom, 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 thanks fire. Every morning me rise, me have to say a prayer. Get fit till me perspire. Here Rastafari, that's him a the life giver. Who shall tell them say the longest liver? No dash of the stick when you use cross the river. You don't know when you might need each other. Cause I'm a freedom, 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 freedom fighter, yeah, freedom fighter. Rastaman, we are freedom, 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 freedom fighter, yeah, freedom fighter. Every man wants to be free, like the bird and the bee. Every man wants to be free, like the fishes in the sea. Every man wants to be free, to praise His Majesty. Every man wants to be free, to take his part in humanity. So run for cover, run for cover. Rebels taking over, hell yes, taking over. Right now, run for cover, run for cover. Rebels taking over, yes, taking over. Rastaman, cause I'm a freedom, 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 freedom fighter, yeah, freedom fighter. Bobo Shanti, a freedom, 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 freedom fighter, yeah, freedom fighter. I will not back down, forever man a fight, till everyone in a the dark world see the light. So every man is fighting the most right side. No matter if you're black, you're red skin or you're white.
The track called Freedom Fighter, and of course I did say it in the beginning of the show, Brad, the events that we are talking about and will be talking about today have inspired the movement later on, are one of the first steps that created this revolutionary movement, this philosophical movement, the fight for freedom, for keeping its own independence. Ethiopia as a country with the Emperor Haile Selassie I at its head, of course, but also as a soldier in the field, as a simple soldier, right? And from there on, this undisputed victory, chasing away the enemy, inspired songs like this and the whole movement.
Yeah, Haile Selassie is the only head of state that in the World War II fought like a simple soldier on the battlefield. He also used the heavy artillery during the conflict, so it is a very shining example of honor and loyalty to his own people, of service, of his own life, of devoting his own life to the defense of his people. You see, the Italians, they invaded, as I told you, on October, and they started to practice a very unloyal and unfair way of warfare. And in the first phase of the conflict, they were unable to penetrate Ethiopian territory because of the strength, the spatial strength of the Ethiopian army, the Ethiopian soldier, their subtle knowledge of the strategy of war and their intelligence. Despite the superiority, the material superiority of the Italian army, they were unable to penetrate. But at that time, they also decided, the head of the the Italian army decided to use the forbidden means of war, the very atrocious means of war, of the poisonous gases, to spray poisonous gases above the civil population, upon children, women, religious people. They concentrated their fire upon the innocent population, and they used many others barbarous means of war. And you see, all these things have been hidden in Italy. They are not taught in the schools. They are systematically hidden, and it is very important. It's a very important work of the Rasta people here in Italy to speak about all these matters, these things in detail.
So I give thanks to you for being here today, touching the subject, and literally, I'm not exaggerating, educating us. I'm the first year learning a lot today, and of course it's really interesting to go besides the music, besides the parties, the sound system. The foundation of the music comes as well from the history of what happened and what brought to everything developing and to nowadays. And also it's very interesting to see how history repeats. You are talking about stuff that we see still today, unfortunately, the use of brutal force to invade other people's territories, to undermine their own independence, the use of forbidden strategies and forbidden weapons, of course, that have serious and very strong implications on the health and well-being of the population and the world as a whole. But also guerrilla war, of course, has always been at the advantage of the invaded people, because besides the knowledge of the terrain, there is also the fact that you are defending your own territory from an invader. But what you don't see often is the leaders, the heads of states, being there among their own people, fighting, putting their own life at risk rather than sending young people to the slaughterhouse, essentially. So that itself is quite a revolutionary act, I would think. There aren't many examples of leaders and revolutionaries in history who have been there fighting all the while.
Yeah, that's why we consider His Majesty like the perfect example of royalty, the perfect example that we should follow also in terms of political knowledge, of political activity, and that's why it should be considered also like the teacher of the healthy and good politics in this time. And we should abandon, leave all the human idols that had been imposed on us during this last years, like communism and fascism and capitalism. No ism, no schism. We want the philosophy of His Majesty, no devil's philosophy for AI.
And also, like you said, besides the analogies we have seen and the historic facts, there was a certain amount of symbolism in this invasion. The Italian imperial Roman army, essentially, being, would you say, reconstructed and attempting to recreate the Roman Empire as such?
Yeah, that was the explicit intention of Mussolini. That is the whole language and rhetoric of Mussolini to explain the source, the spiritual and cultural source of his own power. And that is the fulfillment of the prophecy, for when we check the gospel, we see the same situation, exact situation of Roman army in state of occupation in the Holy Land. And the same Romans that crucified Christ, we find here now to crucify Christ returned again.
So if I understand correctly, Ethiopia in particular, because in the older books, Ethiopia is Zion, right? Is the promised land.
True. And Rome is Babylon. If we check the book of Revelation, we will find that Rome is said to be the city that is built on 7 hills. You see, for Rome was the killer of Christ and was the persecutor of Christ, of the Christians, for 300 years.
More music and we keep it in the subject. Give thanks truly and really all the listeners, all the people who are here with us right now, live and direct, sharing this time and sharing, I hope, this opportunity of learning something new. It is new for me in many ways. I'm really happy to share it with you. I hope you will feel joy. I hope it will be a positive experience for you. Like I said, in music, the subjects that are touched by history, by historians, by philosophers, have often made it into the music with the same dignity, with the same literary and artistic dignity. This one, the Inner Circle, Roman Soldiers of Babylon, indeed.
See them coming, plain clothes, plain Roman soldiers of Babylon are here to fight us. Don't give up, don't give up. The Roman soldiers of Babylon are right behind us. Coming from the north with your pocket full of ammunition, trying to turn dreadlocks into politicians. Marcus Garvey done say things like these would happen in this day. Oh yes. So don't give up, don't give up. The Roman soldiers of Babylon are here to fight us. See them coming in. So don't give up, don't give up. The Roman soldiers of Babylon are here to fight us. Look out! Now play it close. All in. They're coming trying to fight Rastafari, but they can't defeat the wisdom of Selassie I. Rastafari will blow them away. Rastafari will blow them away. Yes, the sea, the eye, the air. Yes, the sea, the eye, the air. So don't give up, don't give up.
Greetings Australia, greetings Europe, greetings America. Give thanks all the people listening right now. StereoItes show live and direct on the Real Roots Radio. And Brother Tekle, if you listen to the lyrics in this tune, it's basically talking about the events we are discussing right now.
Yeah, and we could say also that the Roman Empire historically was born with August, with Emperor August. For before it was not an empire. It was a kingdom. There was a king of Rome. There were 7 kings around the beginning. Then it became, it passed through several changes, constitutional changes. Then it reached the state of empire with August. And you see, Christ was born under August. So when Mussolini conquered Ethiopia, he announced publicly that the Roman Empire was returned on the heels of Rome once again, and then Christ has returned once again, same way.
There is indeed a very important aspect of this whole history we will have to talk about, the reaction of the emperor himself when he finally managed to go back.
Yeah, you see, after the use of the forbidden means of the poisonous gases, Italians were able to penetrate finally and to occupy the Ethiopian territory. We cannot speak about colonization of Ethiopia nor conquest. For 5 years they continued to fight against Ethiopian patriots, so it was a continuous fighting. And you see, at a certain point, after 7 months of fighting, the emperor was forced by the council of the ministers and the high dignitaries of the state to move in the West in exile to speak unto the League of Nations, that was like the UN of that time, and to speak about what was happening, to warn the League of Nations about the danger of the fascism and the Nazism. And you see, we all can check the speech of His Majesty, how much was prophetically. He said, the fate that today is for us, tomorrow shall be for you. The fate of Ethiopia shall be the same, of all Europe and the world, if you won't act rapidly and with determination. And that was, the situation that really happened at that time.
Tell you what, I had another Whalers track queued in to play. February is a month full of really important moments.
Yeah.
Black month, Black History Month,
True.
Reggae Month as well, if I'm
True.
not wrong.
True.
The events we're talking about. Now, of course, Bob Marley's birthday.
True.
And
True.
now the movie has been thrown in, and there is a lot of discussion about, you said it, right? There are different
True.
ways of looking at this subject. There are different ways of getting an insight of both the philosophy, the history, the movement itself, and what these different figures, what roles these different figures played, and how they got to playing those roles. Bob Marley, for instance.
Yeah, and Black History Month, there's a lot of debate about the importance and dignity of Black History Month. A lot of brethren, they think that it's just a formal way to give some happiness, some satisfaction to the black community, but without a real meaning, an actual meaning. But indeed, there are many reasons that we can produce to recognize February as a special month of commemoration. And one is the fact that on the 19th of February we have the official date that has been established by His Majesty to commemorate the sacrifice of the Ethiopian soldiers. And another fact is that February symbolically is related to the tribe of Joseph. That's why also Bob Marley identified himself with the tribe of Joseph that was born on this month. And Joseph was the father, was the one of the, was one of the patriarch of Israel, one of the 12 patriarch of Israel, and he was sold as slave by his brothers. So you see, there's a very deep connection.
With all the care that's due, we do touch these subjects, and that's why I'm really happy to do it when you are here, knowing you as a very dedicated and serious scholar of these matters. So as well, please do correct me, Breda, whenever, if I may make a mistake. And like I said earlier, I had crazy bullets actually queued in to play, but because of what we're talking about, because we spoke about the speech of the emperor in front of the League of Nations, inevitably I will have to play the song called War, which is taken from the speech, right? It's not word by word, but it's
you
strongly inspired by.
You said that. I have to correct you.
And please do.
War is not from that speech, but from the speech that His Majesty delivered on 1963 in front of the ONU, the UNO. You see, so that UNO is the institution that has replaced the League of Nations. So there's a connection also. That's why we meditate about, 3663. There's like, a mirror even in the date.
So if we try to connect the dots, this speech is later from the time of the invasion.
True, yeah.
But still absolutely relevant, I guess.
But it is like the continuation of the speech. That's why His Majesty say, I am here to speak to you, and I'm not the first to speak to ONU, to the United Nations, but I am the only one that spoke both to the United Nations and to the League of Nations.
Okay, let's do this. Let's listen to this great tune by the Honorable Robert Nesta Marley. A song that everybody knows in the world. There is no chance you talk, for sure, there is no chance you talk to an African and they've never heard this song, but so it goes pretty much everywhere in the world. War by Bob Marley, and then if it's okay with you, you will give me a little bit of an insight to the actual speech that was done earlier.
Good thanks.
Until the philosophy which old one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned, everywhere is war. Miss a war. That until they're no longer first class and second class citizens of any nation, until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes. Miss a war. That until the basic human rights are equally guaranteed to all without regard to race. This a war. That until that day, the dream of lasting peace, world citizenship, rule of international morality will remaining but a fleeting illusion to be pursued but never attained. Now everywhere is war, war, and until the ignoble and unhappy regime that hold our brothers in Angola, in Mozambique, South Africa, subhuman bondage, have been toppled, totally destroyed. Well, everywhere is war. Miss a war. War in the east, war in the west, war up north, war down south, war, war, rumors of a war. And until that day, the African continent will not know peace. We Africans will fight, we find it necessary, and we know we shall win, as we are confident in the victory of good over evil, good over evil, yeah, good over evil.
Very deep and serious lyrics that probably is worth taking the opportunity right now to let's go a little bit deeper into this.
A lot of people think that Bob Marley wrote these words, but indeed it just checked the books of Haile Selassie, and in particular the selected speeches and important utterances of His Majesty that were books produced by the government of His Majesty in official English translation containing his own speeches. And you see this part of the speech in that book is just, or it's already organized like verses of an hymn. So when Bob Marley saw that, he said, okay, I will put the music, it will sound by itself. And that is, you see, it is quite impossible to find a speech of a politician, let me say that, of an head of state, that a statesman that can sound, you see, in that way, in a tune. And about the speech, it is like the second part of the teaching that His Majesty gave to humanity before the League of Nations in 1936. And he said, you see, at that time the League of Nations didn't take action against Mussolini and against the fascist crimes. And that's why, you know, it has been destroyed, for it failed. And His Majesty said in that speech in that time, he said, you see, the same existence of this institution is at stake. Then he returned there, perfect in integrity, perfect in his own power, 30 years after that complete revolution that was the World War, and said, okay, this time is not about, we are not talking about war or peace, we are talking about life or death. You should not make the same mistakes. And the end of that speech is that we must become members of a new race. Then you see, he revoluted the concept of race. For race is no more something that you acquire by heritage, but it's something that you become. Okay, and you see, it is very deep also to think that he said that before black and white. We must become members of a new race, and we think that that new race is I and I.
Which is why, at least for myself, and that's what, starting with Breda Ike, with Breda, yes, Ike, greetings, Breda. We started together. I'm having, unfortunately, to continue on my own because of the commitments that the brother has at this moment. But the intention from the very beginning of StereoItes show on the Real Roots Radio was indeed to show perhaps, let's say, a different aspect of this culture, an aspect that not often it's very accessible. I don't want to sound critical or like I want to belittle anyone, but it's sometimes we end up limiting it to parties or just upbeat moments, which is absolutely fine. But in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, it is also important to know this culture more in depth because figures like the Emperor, figure like Bob Marley are not only musical superstars, head of states or divinity, and you just limit to that, but they can be true examples of life, what the Rasta people call levity, examples of life, example of moral conduct, not in religious terms, but in terms of equality, justice, well-being for everybody. We did talk, I mentioned earlier the reaction that the Emperor had when coming back. He could have reacted with unlimited amount of violence, seeking justice, seeking revenge, but even in that occasion he didn't fail to teach a lesson, a moral lesson to the whole world, which was, yeah, please, you do tell about it.
Yeah, in 1940, the emperor returned back to Ethiopia, and with the aid of English troops, he started to fight personally against the Italian army for the freedom campaign of Ethiopia, and he fought even at that time like simple soldiers. Like a simple soldier, and against an army that was 25 times bigger than his own. So you see, it was a very incredible military enterprise, very heroic. And he entered again in Addis Ababa exactly 5 years, exactly on the same day of the defeat. He overwrote the same day of the defeat with the day of the freedom and the victory.
But at the same time, he did make sure to tell his guards and the head of the military that there should be no violence against the Italians who were still there.
The first law that he promulgated at that time, the first decree, was a decree of mercy towards the enemy. So he ordered to forgive the Italian people and to not touch them, to keep them. He even ordered to not reproach them. And you see, this is a prophecy also for we all remember that Christ on the cross before the Roman people, he prayed the Father to forgive them.
And
so
as we see from historic documents, from newspaper articles, from different decades, he did have this recognition from many Italian intellectuals as well, saying he could have reacted, probably history would have not been on his, the morals would have not been on his side in this decision of acting violently, but history surely could have not condemned it.
And 200,000 Italians remained there to work within the empire of His Majesty. So he actually conquered thousands of Italians that became Ethiopian subjects and protected them and worked with them. We should think that the building of the Organization of African Unity in Addis Ababa has been designed by an Italian architect. So you see, it is an example, an image of complete mercy, complete compassion, complete absence of rage, of rancor, and that is supreme. You see, it is not human. So it is really divine love example.
So what then history translates into, and why we say the example of the life and decisions and leadership of the emperor translates in everyday life, is because we said it many a times, in the lyrics of reggae music there is a lot of figures of speech, a lot of please help me, I'm failing the word.
We said the same about War of Bob Marley. A lot of people think that these are Bob Marley words, but indeed Bob Marley has been deeply influenced by the words and the teachings of His Majesty, and we cannot understand this figure without a deep knowledge also this source, this cultural, spiritual source, you see.
Metaphors is the word I was looking for, and like you said, it's best to go deep into the understanding of the history and the lyrics themselves, because through the lyrics you understand both the history and you understand both this very positive message, which is indeed a very positive message that in no case contemplates violence, discrimination, or subjugating anyone. Like we said, the emperor's examples are plenty, and you just have to look at them to see how it comes out as a revolutionary figure without a doubt. And a good way to better understand the lyrics, of course, especially for us foreigners, I myself as an Italian had to do a lot of work to be able to go deeper. And the tune I was talking about, Crazy Bullets, there is this opposition, right, between one way or the other. And of course, because the Rastaman has the dreadlocks, like we talk about Babylon as a figure which expands through many realms, right?
True. And I would like to say that elders teach us that we have three things, important things: word, sound, and power. And so sound comes from the word, the sound comes from the word. That is very crucial to understand, that the word is the root of the sound. So we speak about roots. Let me remember that the word is the roots of the sound.
And metaphors, I was saying, and as the Rastaman follows the way of the emperor, there's nothing to do with bullets, which means wickedness, it means greediness, it means violence, aggression.
Those are Nazi people, we are Nazarene people, you see. It's very different.
All right, crazy bullets, we chase them out.
Chase those crazy chase those crazy bumpers, chase those crazy bullets out of a yam. Here comes the con man, coming with his con plan. We won't take no bribe. We've got to stay alive. We gonna chase those crazy, chase those crazy bullets.
Another great musical work by Bob Marley and the Wailers. Another track, another lyric, Breda Tekle, full of meaning, full of message, full of history, but also looking at the future, right? Because the positive way to look at all of this, so we don't limit ourselves to talk about gases, war and destruction and sufferation. The positive outlook is looking forward, like you said, there's one race in cooperation and stopping all of what this song talks about, the exploitation.
Yeah. See, Ethiopian war is very important also, for it is a confrontation, is a spiritual confrontation between two different civilizations. The civilization of the black man, the kingdom of the black man, the ancient kingdom of the black man, and the ancient kingdom of the white man, that is Rome also. And you see, in this confrontation, if we take His Majesty and Mussolini and we analyze them in comparison, one of the things we will realize is that His Majesty got, very African and florid air, and Mussolini is a bullet. And it is not a matter, you see, of fleshical realities, but it is a symbol of spiritual realities, that one is a tree that is living and another one is a tree that is dead. And you see, the bullet of Mussolini is just an evocation of the ancient bullets of the Roman emperors that had, that kind of tradition to shave completely. And you see, their logic was a colonial logic of divide and rule. And so, we understand the contrary of that logic in our own spiritual Rastafari logic, that is, and of equality and justice and each one teach one and cooperation.
Still is, right? Still the Romans rule, divide and conquer, still functioning really well in the family, in society, and more broadly against immigration, which is a very hot subject, because as well, sometimes behind the mask of solidarity, actually there are many ways that lead pretty much into slavery in the fields, in Europe and elsewhere in the world. So
yeah, you see, at that time, it is very important to recognize that the invasion of Ethiopia also was the first instance in history when a state, an European state, established a complete system of apartheid on African land. So it was the same example that the South African regime will follow few years after. And you see, it is about the same situation that we have now. We should mention that in Palestine, for example, where we have a similar infringement, disrespect of international law from Israel in this case, that is just the expression of a European political interest. We have the same unfair conflict between a very equipped armed nation against a very poor nation of simple civilians and guerrilla soldiers. And so you see, there's a very deep and current teaching in what we are saying.
And Rastafari, like we said, believe it or not, accept it or not, fight it or not, it's a way to spread this message, a message of equality, a message of justice, true justice, because everybody deserves the same, and because when you talk about equality, so it goes. there's no way for discrimination in any way. And we have been talking about, luckily also there is no censorship on the Real Roots Radio, and we can freely talk about what we feel, giving thanks to all the listeners. Sorry I'm not keeping an eye on the chat, loads to do, and the bread keeps me busy with my brain food, tons of it. So I'm trying to keep up with everything. I'm learning a lot. Like I said, I hope it's the same for you. And I was saying the inclusiveness of Rastafari was discussed at one point by a tune that became a reggae anthem, caused a lot of controversy because as well, of course, the opposition between dreadlocks and bollheads is really strong, is really symbolical, like you said earlier. Mussolini, our big baldy bad boy that nobody likes around here, luckily.
And no one knows but the first dreadlocks to appear, and the source of inspiration also for the fathers in the first years of Rastafari movement development were the Ethiopian soldiers that made vow of Nazarite vow in the same image of Samson. That is, it represents the military excellence in the Bible, you see.
So you're talking as well about the Nazarite, and yes, this song caused quite a bit of controversy, but the message in here is clear as well. It's about the intention of your heart and your soul, and definitely not about how you look, not about a hairstyle, especially if you limit it to being a hairstyle. Real Roots Radio, StereoItes show, live and direct from Sicily. We are 1 hour in. Time is flying. The conversation is interesting, and I hope you're feeling the same. Next one, you don't have it dread. Everybody can be a Rasta.
Yeah, just Rasta business, you know. This one's for the people, no matter the race, color, or creed. Oh, yeah, man, so it's going on. Yeah. You don't have the dread to be Rasta. Don't have the dread. This is not a dreadlocks thing. Divine conception of the heart.
Real Roots.
Yeah. You don't have the dread to be Rasta. Don't have the dread. This is not a dreadlocks thing. Divine conception of the heart, yeah. Oh, it's a life of a liberty, lived by the fathers of our history. Uphold the anciency and prophecy, trust in the power of the Trinity. Got to believe in His majesty, oh yes, His lineage and divinity. The first step is sovereignty, knowing oneself through royalty, yeah. You don't have the dread to be Rasta. Don't have the dread. This is not a dreadlocks thing. Divine conception of the heart, yeah. You don't have the dread to be Rasta. Don't have the dread. This is not a dreadlocks thing. Divine conception of the heart. Oh. Don't be afraid of your ever burning fire. Trust in your fire and you'll never get burned. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The fire that rains over heat, air and water. No water can put out your fire. Your fire gonna lift Rasta higher. You don't have the dread to be Rasta. Don't have the dread. This is not a dreadlocks thing. Divine conception of the heart.
Yes,
you don't have the dread to be Rasta. Oh, no, no. This is not a dreadlocks thing. Divine conception of the heart. Heritage play for the world, yeah. Raga, so we raga, yeah, yeah, yeah. Rasta, so we rasta, anaya roots. Oh. ever burning fire. Trust in your fire and you'll never get burned. Yeah. The fire that rains over Ethiopia and water. No water can put out your fire. Your fire gonna lift Rasta higher. You don't have to dread to be Rasta. Don't have to dread. This is not a dreadlock sting. Divine conception of the heart. Oh, you don't have to dread to be Rasta. This is not a dreadlock sting. Divine conception of the heart. Hear it is saying. You don't. You say you don't. You say you don't.
All of us rocking and singing along this sweet, sweet melody has basically taken us to outer space, brother.
Yeah, and it is important to say that it's not about hairstyle. We know, for example, that Apostle Petros in Ethiopia, that is considered as a very, very holy man, he was bald. So it's not about that thing, but it's about the prophecy that is written that Christ must be like a living tree along the river of the water, and his leaves shall not fade away. So you will see His Majesty even in very advanced age, that is full of hair like in his youthful time. And it is because, you see, it is a never-living tree, and he must be the head, you see.
I have been talking earlier about these historic events that we are talking about, how their repercussions have been seen through the world in different realms of society. We have talked about the League of Nations, which is basically the early stages, the beginning of what we know today as the United Nations, the speech that the Emperor held there. You have thankfully corrected me in 2 different occasions, touching the same subject and reminding basically the whole of humanity why war rages around the world, and that one way of solving it is putting down all the barriers that separate, that create division and discrimination. And as we have gone deeper into this, the lyrics of this last tune, we see once again how these historic events and what they meant are relevant nowadays.
Yeah, and you see in that speech in 1936 to the League of Nations, His Majesty spoke about collective security. And this expression will be found also in the Charter of the United Nations now. So it was the teaching, the fundamental teaching of the contemporary international right that is ruling the earth officially right now. So His Majesty teaches that we should settle international disputes through the mediation of the United Nations, that we must give strength to the United Nations, that we must respect the resolutions of the United Nations. And what is happening today for the Palestinian people is about this, is about the fact that Israel didn't respect United Nations resolutions, and that the West always tried to debase the authority of the United Nations through G8, through other ways to rule the world. There's no other way. They should go there and democratically resolve the disputes according to international right.
Rastafari. More music, more vibes as we talk about super interesting things. I'm so involved today. I'm glad to share it with you, and I thank once again the Real Roots Radio for giving us the space, the opportunity of being on air. Give thanks to everyone locked in, listening, sharing this moment with us, and give thanks, of course, Brother Tekle Selassie, for being here, for sharing your knowledge, and for all the effort you put into going deep into these subjects where getting a hold of the information itself, very often it's not an easy job, right?
It's a pleasure, brethren. Yeah, it is our life, and we do what we are created to do, you see, so.
More music, Twinkle Brothers, catch them around. They will be in tour in Europe, reaching you, and you. This one is called Africa. Africa, the Promised Land. This was the Twinkle Brothers on the Real Roots Radio StereoItes show. And of course, like you said in the beginning, Africa, a very rich continent. Ethiopia is very rich itself, but the whole of Africa, and of course, one of the main reasons why of the colonial campaigns, of the ignoble colonial campaigns through history and at the hands of many different countries, populations, happened to exploit a country that yet, for some reason, in the common imagination and very often in language, like in countries where politically correct is not really a thing, like maybe Italy. For instance, Africa is often used as an example of inefficiency, of extreme poverty, but it's not like that, right, Breda?
Africa is the original mother of mankind, so any kind of wealth comes from Africa. It is the house of the diamonds. But, you know, the European stole the diamonds and put their own name upon it. So they said the beers. But it's an African thing, you see. So we have the richest continent on the earth in Africa, but at the same time the continent that is the poorest financially. So it is a question of economical, political system of exploitation.
And the exploitation continues, and of course we are not going to talk too much about politics, but things that inevitably have to be discussed when touching these subjects, when talking about this culture and the music. And Africa as the motherland for each and every one, regardless of color or race, because we did say it already in the show, and it's a scientific fact, everybody, regardless of where they come from, they have an African in their DNA, and it's a place to look at, yes, physically repatriation. We've had the opportunity of looking at it from the African point of view with Breda Aiki, and I'm really happy to see it from the Ethiopianist point of view with Tekle Selassie as a scholar of the subject, as a scholar of Rastafari and its teachings. So also a motherland in a metaphorical way, spiritually and mentally, because of its long-lasting, deep history, the many cultures and the many teachings that come from there in terms of leaders and historic events like those we are discussing today. If you don't have anything to add, Breda Tekle, I will go on with the next musical selection.
Bless.
Trip to Africa, Breda Culture, together with Joe Ariwa.
Africa we come from, Africa we belong. In Africa we're gonna make the final stand. Natty dreadlocks must take a trip to Africa. People take a trip and take a look, you know. It's good. Take a trip around Africa. My people take a trip around Africa. You know it's good. Trip around Africa. My people take a trip around Africa. Give me no star. Somalia is known as the Horn of Africa. Nairobi is the capital of Kenya. Them crown His Majesty up in Ethiopia. Mandela fight for freedom down in South Africa. Most diamonds in the world come from Angola. Say next to Zimbabwe you find Zambia. And in Zambia the Zambezi River. Say full of minerals like gold and copper. Me take a little trip up to West Africa. Me touch down in the place called Nigeria. You find Yoruba, the Igbo and the Hausa. Say next to the wonderful state of Ghana. Banjul is the capital of Gambia. And in Gambia you find the mad professor. Around the mix and you find Joe Ariwa. And in the center you find Breda Culture. Take a trip around Africa. Bang diddle din, take a trip around Africa. Slang badang badang bang diddle din, trip around Africa. Bang diddle din, take a trip around Africa. But when me say your life is wasted in America, say your life is wasted in England, your life is wasted in Germany. Say your time is wasted in Italy. Jump up on a plane and reach in Africa. Cause there's always the past and feel with future. My name is Brother Culture, I'm a mic chanter. We forward together, we forward star. Take a trip around Africa. Song with the day, take a trip around Africa. It's really good to trip around Africa. Bang diddle take a trip around Africa. But when me say Somalia is known as the Horn of Africa. Nairobi is the capital of Kenya. Them crown His Majesty up in Ethiopia. Mandela fight for freedom down in South Africa. Most diamonds in the world come from Angola. Next door to Zimbabwe you find Zambia. And in Zambia the Zambezi River. Say full of minerals like gold and copper. Me take a little trip up to West Africa. Me touch down in the place called Nigeria. You find Yoruba, the Igbo and the Hausa. Say next to the wonderful state of Ghana. Me jump up on the bus and me reach in Accra. The next place me reach it was in Gambia. And in a Banjul me meet the mad professor. And in a Banjul me meet Joe Ariwa. Gentleman a Pupa Conchara the Eiffel Tower. And in Africa me say we have a future. Make we trip around Africa.
Make a trip around Africa, voice of the Breda culture, meeting Joe Ariwa out of the Ariwa studios. Talking about Africa, talking about wasting time in the West, which is something we hear very often, and this message is starting to make sense more and more every day. Give thanks all the listeners. I read about generations together, listening, finding it interesting. It's the same for me. I'm feeling really privileged to do this today, to be able to take the opportunity to share with you the knowledge of this figure, Matyas Tekle Selassie, historian, musician, translator, you name it. His work is really appreciated, and I'm really happy to share it with you people around the world. I'm more than happy to receive your positive feedback on this. We touch subjects which are often delicate, and we try to do it with the utmost respect, being cautious with the fact, and that's why it's important to do it when the experts in the subjects are here, and in this case with me, Tekle Selassie. Trip to Africa, time wasted in the West, the way is Africa. Looking forward, how is this supposed to happen, Brother Tekle? Because we have to talk about things that are doable, things that are, that can happen soon.
Yeah, Western propaganda always saying that they must bring salvation to Africa, but indeed salvation comes from Africa. So even Mussolini, he wanted to civilize Ethiopia, he said that. But we know indeed that Africa represents our fathers. You see, it is written in the book, it is written, honor your fathers and your days shall be long. So it is in Africa that we learn the original and natural way of living, and it is very useful for everyone to take a trip and to learn humbly how the man has been created, and the man has been intended to live and to serve each other in love. I was baptized in Africa. I know that is the place of love.
And when you talk about going to have a visit, if I may ask you humbly, I know it's not easy to summarize things so quickly, but for a person like me who lives in the West and has not had the opportunity of traveling to this continent, what could be simple steps to, let's put it this way, act a little bit more African, a little bit more natural, like you said?
Once again, the foundation is education. So the first form of repatriation is educational, is spiritual. So the first thing is to learn and to study about Ethiopia, about African tradition, to learn from African people, from Ethiopian people, to attend African communities in your places, and in that way you prepare yourself. Even linguistically, it's very useful also to learn an African language. Everyone knows here in the West, a lot of people know a lot of European languages, a lot of Latin alphabets, but no African languages, no African alphabets. We should fill that gap, that lack, and that way we prepare also our physical repatriation. That is crucial also, you see, for we must return where we come from, and we come from there not only spiritually but even in race. That is scientifically acknowledged now.
Nice reasonings on the Real Roots Radio, and luckily culture and education and knowledge, especially in places like Africa where oral traditions are often more important than the written ones. Traditions, culture, education and knowledge carry through generations. Same way, generation from generation, we have listened to Joe Ariwa, and we listen now to the original Mad Professor.
This musical sound is dedicated to each and every one of my brethren and sisters all over the world.
Team Shanti, bless up every time, you know. And Dad.
True born African. See, but me living in a different land. None of us are living in a different land. We see me move, I never born ya. When I poop, I never born ya. Say so naughty, one and woman ya. Think of us say so naughty, living in a different land. Don't do it.
Don't call me no English girl. Just call me by my name. If you were born an Englishman, I'm sure you feel the same.
And if you don't know your right name, just say Daddy right, yeah? Do it, so we not true born African. Say not your true born African. Living in a Jamaica. Sometimes we living in America. And time we live in a London. Living in a this land. But they rough in a Babylon. Say the dread down in a Babylon. Say not the rough in a Babylon. Good. But the dread down in a Babylon. You know.
If you were born an Englishman, I'm sure you feel the same.
Got no one to blame. You'll be the same. We can't play the game if you're not true born African.
Now they're putting out the shop without telling people what it's all about. Just spilling lies from their mouth.
Them just running up their mouth, don't know what them chatting about. But it in a Babylon, anyway, the roof down in a Babylon. And they said them talking on this, I saw them talking that. Them no really know just how big it's really at. The roof in a Babylon. They say the terrible down here. The dread in a Babylon. They say me mama never born ya. And me poopa never born ya. Lord, oh Lord, we only walk and come on ya. See the dread in a Babylon. See the fire burn in a Babylon. See blood a run down in a Babylon. The fire burn in a Babylon.
Might have gone quiet for just a brief moment of time your end, so it did here. We had a little electrical fault. We are alive, nothing is on fire, only Babylon is on fire, burning hot. So thanks for being there. Real Roots Radio, StereoItes, live and direct from Sicily for another 35 minutes or so as we listen to good music, as we chat about philosophy, the philosophy of Rastafari, the teachings of the Emperor, and maybe, Brad, I've taken you a bit astray from the original subject of today's episode of our chat together this afternoon with our listeners on the Real Roots Radio, the invasion of Ethiopia. But yes, we are keeping there because we have gone in the future for a little bit, but let's go back straight away to history, to those moments, to how things developed.
Well, after the return of His Majesty in 1931, that is, the first case of liberation from Nazi fascism of history. So Ethiopia was the first to fight fascism on the battlefield, and she was also the first to gain freedom from fascism. So we also say that the Ethiopian war and the Ethiopian campaign was the first victory of the Allies, you see, in the World War II. So the world liberation movement from Nazi fascism started in Ethiopia. And you see, after the return of His Majesty, we have said that around 200,000 Italians remained there. And within the project and the plan of forgiveness that His Majesty manifested at that time, there was also a new way to relate with the Italian people. And so he gave us this very wonderful vision that in the mind of His Majesty, and this is the message of what he said when he visited Italy in 1970, the war should be conceived like an occasion of meeting of the two peoples, and so it should be like the foundation of a new special friendship. And this is very, very deep, and something that is, it is within us. It is a responsibility of I and I in Italy to testify that.
So if we put things on a time scale, first comes the second invasion of Ethiopia at the hands of the Italians, in this case of the fascist regime, happening when? Please help me.
The first invasion happened in 1896, and the second it happened in 1936. Okay.
So the beginning of the fight against fascism, the first examples of partisan troops, in this case against an invader, then in Europe both against an invader but against a dictatorship. But the thing is, fascism was defeated in Africa, in Ethiopia, but it kept raging for many years to come in Europe.
Yeah, you see, I told you that they tried to gain revenge against Ethiopian people. At that time, Ethiopia was the only state that was able to resist against colonial penetration. And the victory of Italy over Italy by Ethiopia, it is also the beginning of the decolonization process. And that's why, see, we have listened to the tune speaking about Africa, speaking about Mandela in South Africa, for example.
Yes.
But very few people know that Mandela has been trained by His Majesty in Ethiopia and has been financially supported by His Majesty. Very few people know that all the national leaders that fought the war of liberation in Africa at that time were, you see, like scholars, students of His Majesty. And when His Majesty gathered all them in 1963 to found the Organization of African Unity, all of them, they recognized His Majesty as Father of Africa. So you see, we are speaking about the source of the inspiration of the movement of civil rights and justice in the modern times.
The reason why I was asking you about the time scale was to help, first of all, myself to put in context the fact that after being defeated in Ethiopia, the Italian regime kept on waging war in Europe with World War II, of course. But at that time, the emperor of Ethiopia was maintaining peace in its own country, was definitely not seeking revenge against the Italians that were left there. So the ex-enemies, potentially traitors, infiltrated people. He was looking forward. He was so open-minded that rather getting involved in revenge and violence, as he has been in many examples through history, he's always been very open to technology, to exchanges with foreign countries, and taking the best out of every nation he was being connected with as a head of state.
Yeah, I would like to say that case is very unique. So we have no similar cases in the World War II. Remember, for example, in Italy when Tito conquered again the territories that were taken by Italy by fascist forces in Yugoslavia, and he practiced very, very hard revenge against the fascist people. And we, a few days ago, these things have been remembered in Italy like a very bad fact. You see, and in any case of similar case in the World War II, we had similar acts of revenge. But Ethiopia is the only one, is the only case, and that time, that period of complete mercy and compassion and forgiveness. And you see, we were in the full time of the World War, so it has been very, very difficult to realize that. And we know that His Majesty had to fight against his own soldiers that wanted that revenge, and he exposed himself, you see, personally to stop any movement, of revenge, of violence. But you see, it was very a superhuman effort, and this must be appreciated, loved deeply by everyone.
Give thanks for the reasonings and the teachings, for sharing them with I and all the people looked into the Real Roots Radio. And the next musical track I'm going to play, it's a great celebration of blackness. Prince Allah alongside the Philip Fraser. A song in this case, Prince Allah, Black Rose, talking about Africa in more, let's say, biblical terms, in more metaphorical terms, Breda, but really and truly Africa is a place to look to.
Yes, there's a place for it. Is the original place of mankind. It is said in the Bible that Adam was created to live in Africa, So that should be identified like the true promised land. You see, in this Palestinian conflict, one of the illusions of this conflict is about the nature of Israel and the promised land also. So we know that Israelite people biblically is from Adam. Adam is considered the first Jewish man, the father of the Jewish people, and Adam was an Ethiopian. And we know also that Palestine was just the outskirt of the original kingdom of Adam that was created to live in the heart of the paradise, what is also said Eden in Ethiopia. And so you see, it is said that where we come from, we should return. It is like an eternal love. It is what we celebrate every day, that we come from the blackness of the womb of our mother, and we return every day to blackness in sleep. And so we have to return back to our original blackness. And so the promise of God is to restore through Christ the original paradise, that is the original grace that man has lost. And we believe that following His Majesty, we will return at that original lost paradise, you see?
And the point that I'm keep on going to here is how the reaction after the invasion. Maybe we will have to go back to some stages of the invasion, talk about the development of the events, of what this meant for the population. But yes, absolutely something worthy talking about and going back to is how after this invasion there was no further violence, but you told me in many occasions Italian culture made it in many ways, in the cuisine, in the language, in some of the habits, but there was this looking ahead from the emperor and its population as well, giving a great example of using what was a tragedy as an opportunity for looking forward. All themes which we hear daily when listening to our beloved reggae music, roots music.
Yeah, and you see, one of the most precious examples that His Majesty gave us is the fact that when he returned back to free Ethiopia, he didn't destroy, as he didn't destroy the Italian people, so didn't kill them, he didn't destroy even the things that they had established there. So he used the fascist buildings, he used the fascist roads, the fascist structures, the factories.
What kind of infrastructure was that? What kind of enterprises were the Italians being involved in Ethiopia?
No, they started to exploit the territory, so introduced many different enterprises. You see, Italians brought a lot of specific Italian products there in Ethiopia, like the cheese, like pizza. You see, you said that a lot of Ethiopian words come from Italian language, like you see, we even have pasta al forno, that is a typical typical dish,
oven baked pasta, right?
Yeah, we have gommista, we have a lot of technical words. For example, all the technology that the Italians brought there were named with Italian words, and His Majesty didn't refuse that technology, but used it actually to implement a constitutional democratic system in Ethiopia. So we remember the same prophecy of Christ that has used the cross to free mankind from sin, and the cross is the fruit of Roman work. So it is the same,
So thereafter, the populations, the two populations, managed to actually thrive together, not to tolerate each other, or there were no ghettos, there was no real separation.
Absolutely, no. It was the policy of His Majesty was that of the adoption, that he adopted these people. Okay, so you see, a lot of times His Majesty said in the radio, and to the people, these are my sons. These are my sons. So it was adopting the Italian people. And you see, that is the basis of the idea we have talked about of the new race, that is building up a new race. We find a new race in His Majesty that is restoring that original Ethiopian race. In the beginning there was only one Ethiopian race, so at the end there shall be one Ethiopian race, and He merged, okay, the two opposite peoples. So He merged everything in that way.
Let's play some good vibes to go along with the highness of the character of the events that we're talking about. This one, Apple Gabriel, Another Moses. Nora Deya and the whole crew having a good time on the Real Roots Radio. Have no fear, my people.
Another exodus of Jah people. We going across another Red Sea, and then a Leviticus, a Deuteronomy, and a Number. Arise from your sleep, arise from your slumber. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done upon the earth as in Mount Zion. I'm saying, you feel run Babylon, you feel run. Hot a fire a come.
Another Moses, you were telling me, brother Tekle, the only solo album by Apple Gabriel from Israel Vibration, correct?
True, I think so. Very beautiful.
And another Moses, as we have been talking about, great leaders, the emperor, of course, many other African leaders, like you were reminding us, often mentored by the emperor himself, paving the road for many African struggles. And obviously this struggle meant a lot of violence, meant war for real, flying bullets, bombs, gas, like we said, and the occasion for our reasoning today, for us meeting and going on air together on the Real Roots Radio, is indeed the day of the Ethiopian martyrs, which was instituted by the emperor himself to celebrate and in memory of these fine freedom fighters, right?
Yeah, for on the 19th of February of the 1937, the head of the Italian army, that is called Graziani, and was known in Italy as the Bachelor because of his aggressivity, he responded to an attempt of killing against his own person with a very, very unbalanced reaction, and he killed thousands of innocent Ethiopian monks. And we should remember that the head of the Ethiopian church at that time, the Abune Petros, was one of the first to be killed by the fascist soldiers, for he always refused to preach in favor of the Italian occupation, always continued to preach, to give courage to the resistance, the Ethiopian resistance. So the fascists had to kill him. And at that same time, we know that the head of the Roman Church here in Italy, instead, it was a supporter of the fascist invasion. It was a supporter of the fascist regime, and he also called one day he called Mussolini the man of providence.
Whilst instead we have looked at the totally opposite reaction. Of course, if it's necessary, there has to be made that distinction between self-defense during the invasion and instead the mercy shown and the peacefulness shown in the aftermath of that, and how that translates to nowadays to a message of peace, to a message of collaboration, to a message of inclusiveness.
Yeah, and we could also say that there was a confrontation of two different types of Christianity. You see, that is a crucial point for, you see, you can put in comparison two different interpretation of Christ, and through this conflict we know the original and we know the copy. You see, so the concept of Christianity of Ethiopian people was the forgiveness. The concept of Christianism, that we said that, of Roman people was the hypocrisy of their invasion, of their brutality, and their desire, they declared desire to civilize and to Christianize Ethiopian people.
Voice of the culture in the next rhythm track. Put down the gun.
Hey, you Mr. Batman, just sit down. I come talk, but you think anybody that live in fear conquer you? You must have respect to the Bible. Respect Jato. If you want to see Batman gun pull down, if you want to see Batman gun pull down, if you want to see Batman gun pull down, cook your ass and peas and no give him none. And him have to wait last for the bun Batman gun pull down. If you want to see Batman gun pull down, make him hungry. If you want to see Batman gun pull down, or if you want to see Batman gun pull down, tell the people them a country no bother come. When coronation empty, him have to run Batman gun pull down. You cannot war until your belly full. You cannot war until your belly full. You cannot war till your belly full. For if you're hungry, you have to find food. Hungry man can't fight war at all. Bad man gun put on. For if you want to see bad man gun put down. If you want to see bad man gun put down. If you want to see bad man gun put down, take out your Bible and start to read. Exodus 20 up in 9 years. Him have to give praise. Isaiah. If you want to see bad man gun put down. If you want to see bad man gun put down. If you want to see bad man gun put down, tell him grandmother no wash him blood clothes. Him have to wear the blood up on the road. Bad man gun put down. If you want to see bad man gun put down, take your matatic and clap him on him nose, and then him feel like you wet him with those. Bad man gun put down. If you want to see bad man gun put down, take a coke, lace him, cross him back, and then him feel like him have a attack. Bad man gun put down. If you want to see bad man gun put down, get a Scotch bonnet and bust in a high, and him have to praise Selassie I. Bad man gun.
Yes, I absolutely joyful ride today on this side of the show. We are really grateful for you being there. Time is closing in. I hope everything made sense as we have been talking to. And once again, I give thanks, first of all, to Real Roots Radio for having us around, for giving us the space and the opportunity which we try to fill with the utmost care and respect. And I also give thanks to all the listeners who have been with us, full joyed this moment of reasoning, of history, of subjects that, like we said in the beginning of the show, not very often touched for obvious reasons. I don't think we need to really discuss further why these things wouldn't be taught, especially in the West. Brother Tekle Selassie, finally, thank you so much for being here today with us. We have still a few minutes in, but I want to say it now. Give thanks truly and really for sharing this piece of history, this part of your knowledge, and I would ask you now to please draw tight all together what we have been discussing today in the most positive way, Rastafari way.
We give thanks unto the Most High. Firstly, give thanks, brethren, for the kind opportunity. I think that today we have we are doing a very important job of education and knowledge, and Ethiopian conflict is a subject that should be studied more, that should be meditated more to understand history, to understand even our own historical present condition. And it is an hidden crime that should be known, and through it we can understand many things spiritually, historically. We can understand many prophetical foundation of Rastafari faith. It is something that everyone loving reggae music should deepen more and should face very, very soon as possible.
We wrap it up here with some more music until the next shows. Really sorry I haven't been keeping an eye on the chat. There are plenty of shows going on. Believe me, for myself, there is a lot going on. There is a lot to learn. So I've been focusing more on trying to give you the best show possible and share with you this precious knowledge that we had around today. Give thanks again. Positive revolution, Rastafari revolution. Simple, you know.
In the minds of all youth worldwide, Satan is a mental disease, and its symptoms are hate, jealousy, lack of self-respect, and lack of discipline. Hear these words and strengthen yourself. Yeah.
Sing me a song of revolution.
The revolution.
Sing me a song, let's cry freedom.
The revolution.
Rastafari is God, you know what I mean? And His Majesty's earth rightful ruler, and that is Haile Selassie I.
The revolution. The revolution. The revolution. The revolution.
Ready for the street soldier, real warrior. Rock off the chains and Lucifer. Send go a space like Jupiter. Chase like the devil man and Darth Rider. Boom boom cat, who's that Joshua? Round the walls and the new order. Dreadlocks wax with the buffalo soul. She running moving in my mouth for the gold. Tabernacle road that I come from road. UK story has gotta be told. Concrete jungle, that's where I live. Now it's the time of the fugitive. Fugitive, fugitive. Now it's the time of the fugitive.
Stepping out of Babylon, we're stepping, fire upon the Vatican, we're stepping out of Babylon, we're stepping to the holy mount of Zion.
Man a ras, we a look back to Emperor King Selassie. Bugsy one, Congo Nights, revolutionary travel, go and send on the fast. Cause you couldn't dream of the head with all of that. Without no mean so forget all of that. Straight righteousness, what I needed, worldwide clean up, people them and take on to that. So we praise Jah.
Hear these words and strengthen yourself.
Praise Jah.